Hey, what's going on? Today is March 19th of 2022. Yesterday, for the second straight day in the National Football League, we had a very surprising transaction. One day after the Packers traded Davante Adams to the Las Vegas Raiders, making him the highest paid wide receiver in the history of the league, the Houston Texans shipped Deshaun Watson out to the Cleveland Browns, which will give him the largest guaranteed money contract in the history of the league. In this video, we'll explore the language of numerology and Gematria and how it relates to astrology. This language reveals a number of bizarre connections, and it does appear that this story is a riddle connected to the transfer of power between Ronald Reagan and George Herbert Walker Bush, which occurred back in 1989. And we'll get to why this connection exists in a minute. But first, I want to explain a couple of syncs that this second trade has with the trade I talked about yesterday. Davante Adams will be joining the Las Vegas Raiders and playing with his former college quarterback, Derek Carr, who wears number 4. And this was important to the Post yesterday because Aaron Rodgers, who was Adams' last quarterback, just passed Brett Favre on multiple fronts, both touchdown passes and MVP awards. Now, Derek Carr's middle name is Dallas, and Dallas is the city where Rodgers won his only Super Bowl that he ever played in. Furthermore, this year's WrestleMania will be in Dallas, which is all connected as Aaron Rodgers has that WWE Championship belt celebration. Well, then yesterday we get another trade. And notice how this man, Deshaun Watson, also wears number 4 like Favre and Carr. Deshaun Watson's real first name is actually Derek, very similar to Raiders quarterback Derek Carr. So this connects Watson to Brett Favre. The other quarterback involved in this story is Baker Mayfield, whose time in Cleveland appears to be over. Several years ago, I explained how Baker Mayfield is connected to Brett Favre through the numbers. On draft day back in 2018, Baker Mayfield recreated this famous Brett Favre draft image. And this all had to do with the eclipse code, these two men being born exactly 1,331 weeks apart. The name Brett Favre has a Gematria value of 153, and this stands out because the quarterback who's replacing Baker Mayfield in Cleveland was born 153 days after him. This post I made in 2019 also explains how Baker Mayfield and Brett Favre are connected to Ronald Reagan, both through the numbers and in their names. Mayfield's middle name is Reagan, reminding us of the 40th U.S. president. Now, Ronald Reagan's middle name is Wilson, and this stands out because Wilson is the name that actually appears on an NFL football. And you may recall that last week, the same day that Aaron Rodgers confirmed he would be staying in Green Bay, the Seattle Seahawks shipped Russell Wilson out to Denver. But this connection between Ronald Reagan and Baker Reagan Mayfield goes much deeper. First, consider the two teams in this trade, Houston Texans and Cleveland Browns. In our standard Pythagorean or reduction method, this has a Gematria value of 112. Former President Reagan died at the age of exactly 1,120 months old. Now, in numerology, we drop the 0, so this represents the number 112. Reagan was born in the small village of Tampico. And notice how in Gematria, Tampico sums to 112. Also a 77 using the alphabetic order. The name Baker Reagan Mayfield also sums to 707 using Latin or Jewish gematria. This cipher based on the ancient Hebrew and Greek charts, using the original Latin alphabetic order. Mayfield's full name also sums to 112. And on its own, the name Baker Mayfield sums to 112 and 77. The quarterback that'll be replacing Baker in Cleveland is being traded from Houston. And notice how Houston also has these same numbers, 77 and 112. Measuring from Ronald Reagan's last birthday, February 6th, to the date of this trade, even gives us 1 month and 12 days. This trade is proving to be highly controversial, however. Last week, the Browns said they were looking for a new quarterback because they wanted an adult at the position. And this is drawing a lot of ire in the media because Deshaun Watson has recently been accused of sexual misconduct by more than 20 women. So this seems like the last guy, according to those stories, who would be an adult, right? Well, this trade that happened yesterday was on the 77th day of the year, connecting to Mayfield and Reagan, as we see. But notice how the word adult also sums to 77 in the reverse order. Back in 2018, George Herbert Walker Bush, the 41st president, the man who succeeded Reagan, died 77 days after the quarterback in Houston's birthday, Deshaun Watson. Now, George Bush is intricately linked to Houston. Back in the late 50s, he moved his family business to Houston, Texas. And later in the 60s, that's where he began his political career. I believe being elected to the House of Representatives in Texas. That's where he started. And now we get the quarterback from Houston going to Cleveland, whose quarterback is named after Reagan. If you measure from the death of George H.W. Bush to the date of this trade, you get exactly 172 weeks. And this is a very important number to this story. The name Derek Deshaun Watson has Jewish Gematria of 1720. In this move, he goes to Cleveland to become a Brown. And notice how Brown equals 1072 and 72 in ordinal. I think the name Deshaun has that 72. But what's also interesting about this is if you include the end date, you get 1,012 or 205 days, like the digits 1, 2, 5. Bush's full name was George Herbert Walker Bush, which sums to 125. Deshaun Watson will be taking his talents to Cleveland, Ohio, which sums to 125 in ordinal. The name George Bush Sr., which is more his common name, sums to 63 in both of our reduction methods. That's important because yesterday's trade occurred on a date with 63 numerology. And Deshaun Watson will be a Brown, which equals 63 and 27. Deshaun sums to 27. He went to Clemson to play college ball. Notice how Clemson also equals 27. And the trade also had numerology of 27. For the next part of this video, I want to explain how this trade is connected to a major event that occurred last December. On the night of December 10th, into the early morning hours of December 11th, there was a major tornado in western Kentucky. This tornado occurred in the city of Mayfield, Kentucky. And notice how close Mayfield is to the intersection of the two great American total solar eclipses, the first which occurred in 2017, the second of which occurs in 2024. This is where a candle factory was destroyed, killing upwards of 56 people, injuring over 500 others. just a really devastating event to occur. And again, it was December 11th when this story was in the news. Now, this tornado in Mayfield seems to be connected to the downfall of Baker Mayfield. The Browns would go on to lose 3 of their 5 next games after this tornado, dropping out of the playoffs. Baker Mayfield is closely linked to these eclipses. Notice how he was born in the city of Austin, Texas. Well, in the year 2024, we get this second Great American Eclipse. Notice how the first large city that this eclipse passes over is Austin, Texas, where Baker was born. Baker played his college ball in Oklahoma, which is also in the path of this eclipse. And now he plays in Cleveland, which is the largest city in the United States, which sits in this eclipse's path. This will be in 2024, and in order to get Deshaun Watson, the Browns traded their first-round picks up through the year 2024, where it looks like they gave up a fourth-round pick. If you measure from the Mayfield tornado, which was on the night of December 10th, to the date of the trade, you get 98 days. And notice how 98 is the number that Ronald shares with Baker, the two Reagans, right? But what's so wild about this is that 2 of the 3 Browns games that occurred after this tornado finished with a score of 24-22. Now, this is a really important number to the 2 Great American Eclipses, because measuring from the first eclipse to the second one gives us exactly 2,422 days. If you measure from yesterday's trade to the Great American Eclipse that passes over Cleveland, you get 24 months and 22 days. By the way, Baker Mayfield's birthday was April 14th of 95. This date is written 4/14/95, and when you write out the word eclipse, you get a Sumerian value of 414 and a Francis Bacon value of 95. But the number 2422 is not the only 4-digit number that's important to this. If you divide 2422 by 2, you get 1211. And let me explain why that's important. Back in 2020, we had a very significant total solar eclipse. That total solar eclipse ended lunation number 1211. That eclipse fell 1,211 days after the first American eclipse and 1,211 days before the second Great American Eclipse. Remember, this eclipse was also in the year 2020, and total solar eclipse sums to 202. So literally for years I've been talking about how important that was, and it was such a big deal that they even approved the COVID vaccine on that very day. So if you measure from the date that Ronald Reagan left office, giving power to this guy from Houston, to the date that Baker Mayfield is leaving Cleveland, surrendering his position to this guy from Houston, you get 12,110 days. Again, just like that number 1211. And this has another layer to it because the quarterback who was in Houston at the time, Deshaun Watson, was 1,211 weeks old when Houston businessman George H.W. Bush passed away in Houston. Measuring from this first Great American Eclipse to the date of the trade yesterday gives us 1,670 days, like the digits 167. Notice how Watson Mayfield sums to 167. This is actually the 39th prime number, which is also connected to this, as eclipse equals 39, as does the name Mayfield. Of course, Eclipse and Cleveland both have that 33 Gematria to it. Again, Cleveland will be the largest city in the United States that sits in the path of this eclipse. The 33rd prime number is 137. And this is another significant number to the code, as total eclipse sums to 137 and 47 in reduction. Notice how Deshaun Watson's birth numerology yields 137 and 47. Furthermore, he was born on the 257th day of the year. In the reverse alphabetic order, total solar eclipse equals 257. Notice how total solar eclipse also equals 104. This is the same value as Ronald Wilson Reagan, 104. And if you measure instead from the most recent total solar eclipse to the date of this trade, you get 104 days. A couple more interesting things that stuck out about the contract details here. Baker Mayfield was drafted back in the year 2018. And if you measure from that draft to the date he was replaced, you get 203 weeks and 2 days. So this is like the number 232. The name Derek Deshaun Watson sums to 232. And it's said that he'll be making $230 million guaranteed. Well, the number 230 has that same 232 value. We also get a 288, similar to Clemson, where Deshaun Watson went to school, 288, and he was traded on the date leaving, 288 days in the year. By the way, in this English Gematria cipher, which is seen on the right side of your screen, which uses the current 26-letter alphabet, the name Watson sums to 911 in this cipher. This is a significant eclipse number, as in the Greek language, the phrase for total eclipse sums to 911. And as I exhaustively repeat on this channel, the 9/11 attacks in 2001 were the same year as a total solar eclipse on the summer solstice. And of course, 9/11 is another prime number, the 156th. Watson coming over from the Houston Texans, which has that 156 in the reverse alphabetic order. And it's, again, all connected to George W. Bush, who died in the city of Houston. Remember, you used to see him sit behind home plate at a lot of Astros games, as I believe he and his son had a stake in baseball teams in Texas. So there you have it, another major news story from the NFL, another astrological riddle being played out through the numbers. All right, guys, that'll do it for this video. Peace, love, God bless. Hope everyone enjoys the weekend. We'll talk to you soon. See ya.